I crawled out of bed while Crispin Whitlock was still fast asleep. The floor was a mess, and my stockings were in tatters. But I had a meeting at the office this morning. I clicked my tongue in annoyance, massaging my sore lower back as I rummaged through the drawers. I could have sworn I had another pair, but for some reason, I couldn't find them. Just then, a whistle sounded behind me, and Crispin's voice was full of mischief. "Darling, you're still in such good shape." I couldn't be bothered with him. "Where are my stockings?" He furrowed his brow in thought, looking rather nonchalant. "I think Sarah or Lily might have worn them home last time." "Can't remember." My search faltered for a moment. Although it wasn't the first time I'd heard him say something like this, it still stung, and I couldn't help but mock myself. After all these years, haven't I learned? I was never the special one in his heart. I let out a long sigh and stood up to get dressed. But Crispin patted the space beside him like a lazy big cat, his intentions quite clear. "Darling, why leave so early? There's a meeting at the office this morning." He glanced at me and clicked his tongue. "Is it about that property again? Why work so hard? Stay with me this morning, darling. That property will be yours." It was already afternoon by the time I arrived at the office. My whole body ached. I had barely sat down when Dad called, his voice full of praise. "Winifred, we've secured that property. Well done this time. Keep close to Crispin, your brother's future depends on you." I held the phone, looking at the face of a 26-year-old woman in the mirror, filled with self-mockery. "Dad, I'm not young anymore. Crispin has plenty of 18 and 19-year-old girls around him. What makes you think I can keep him?" There was a noticeable pause on the other end. "Besides, this is likely the last time Crispin will do us any favors." "Why?" The voice on the phone suddenly became tense. "Winifred, have you offended him? Apologize immediately." "Your brother." I gripped the phone tightly. My so-called family was so greedy. In their eyes, I just needed to sleep with Crispin to secure resources for the family. I could be anything, except a human being. An overwhelming sense of humiliation washed over me, and I finally couldn't control my tears. "Because Primrose is coming back." I didn't want to say more and hung up the phone. Outside, my secretary gently knocked on the door. "Miss Sinclair, the gift you requested is ready. Would you like to take a look?" I wiped away my tears and gestured for her to bring it in. The watch in the box was beautiful and expensive. A Vacheron Constantine Flying Dutchman. Like me, a Flying Dutchman forever unable to find land. This is the relationship between Crispin Whitlock and me. You could call us lovers, or you could say it's an exchange of interests. Either way works. I'm probably the most obedient girl among those around him. After all, my father needs a favor from his family. I've been lectured about this since secondary school. You must take good care of young Master Whitlock. I carry his books, do his homework, and clean up his messes. At first, he rejected me and bossed me around. Later, he secretly beat up the older boys who were harassing me. I thought I was special. I watched him grow into a handsome, charming young man. I saw countless pretty girls surrounding him. I saw him fooling around with one or several of them one day, then proudly putting his arm around my shoulder the next. "Remember, everyone, this is my sister," he'd say. His hand was so warm it almost made me shiver. I watched helplessly as my heart sank, but I had to carefully hide it away. Until that night when he got drunk and called me to pick him up. I managed to get the drunken cat home, and just as I was about to leave, he grabbed my hand. He squinted, half asleep, but looked at me with tender affection. "Winnie," he said. When his kiss fell, I didn't push him away. No confession, no flowers, only pain. But I savored it. What I didn't expect was the contemptuous look in Crispin's eyes when he woke up the next morning. "Winifred, you really are." "Really what?" I sat up bewildered, not even having time to feel shy before Crispin had already gone straight to shower, change, and leave. The door slammed with a loud bang. He didn't even look at me again. I sat on the bed for a long time, not knowing what I had done wrong. Later I found out. The The day before, my father had gone to ask him for an investment in our company, which was on the verge of financial collapse. Much later, I learned that he had actually called out for Primrose Prim. He didn't love me. That little spark of a girl's heart didn't even have time to bloom before it died on the spot. From then on, he only called me sister. As if it were his own personal way of looking down on me and humiliating me. He didn't contact me for the following week. Until his birthday. Crispin Whitlock loved a good party. Every birthday was a grand affair, attended by the young lords and ladies of their social circle. I initially didn't want to go, but I couldn't resist the persistent messages from Crispin's childhood friend urging me to attend. Winifred, Crispin is celebrating his birthday at Gin tonight. It wouldn't be proper for you not to come, would it? After much hesitation, I decided to go, planning to make a brief appearance, give my gift, and leave. But just as I was about to push open the door to the private room, I suddenly heard one of Crispin's friends asking him, "Crispin, old chap, what about her when Miss Stainer returns?" A chorus of whistles immediately followed. I froze, my hand on the door. A moment later, Crispin's voice drawled lazily. "What do you mean, what about her?" "She's been with me for so many years, I'll do what's proper, of course." "You're quite generous, Crispin. Giving her a piece of land as a parting gift? Be careful she doesn't cling to you desperately. Such generous benefactors are rare." I felt as if I'd been slapped hard across the face. My fingers, gripping the gift box, trembled. I wanted nothing more than to flee. Just then, someone suddenly pushed me from behind. I lost my balance and stumbled into the room, crashing right into the tall champagne tower. The glittering tower of champagne glasses collapsed with a thunderous crash, shattering across the floor. Champagne drenched me from head to toe. My white strapless cocktail dress was stained and clung to my body. My carefully applied makeup was ruined, with alcohol trickling down my cheeks. I was a complete mess. "Oh, I'm so sorry." "I didn't mean to," came the voice of Rowena Halton, the eldest daughter of the Halton family and Primrose's best friend. I looked up to see Crispin sprawled casually on the central sofa, with Primrose nestled coyly in his arms, wearing a perfectly timed expression of surprise. "Winnie? What are you doing here?" When had she returned to England? I didn't want to appear so disheveled in front of her, but everyone around was enjoying the spectacle. Not a single person offered to help me up. Rowena's voice was the loudest. "I say, Winnie dear, you really shouldn't wear high heels at your age. Look at the mess you've made, and it's not even Christmas yet. It's a shame we're not Crispin. We don't have any land to give you." The crowd burst into laughter. They exchanged furtive glances, reveling in the unfolding drama. Until all voices quieted down. Crispin frowned at me, as if I was an embarrassment to him. "What are you doing here?" By this point, I couldn't help but realize that this was all a setup, orchestrated by Crispin and his circle as a grand welcome for Miss Stainer's return. As I stood up, a sharp pain shot through my ankle, nearly causing me to lose balance again. When I put my hand down to steady myself, glass shards dug deep into my palm, making me shudder in pain. I came to give you your birthday present." "No need," he said, glancing at the gift box in my hand, his tone dismissive. "I have plenty of those. You keep it. I'll have my driver take you home." Despite the high temperature of the air conditioning, I felt as if I was submerged in ice water, shivering uncontrollably. The moment I closed the door behind me, raucous laughter erupted from within. My heart finally sank, piece by piece. That same night, I received a video. Crispin, slightly drunk, pulled Primrose into his arms amidst whistles and cheers, kissing her passionately and tenderly. He kept murmuring, "Rosie, Rosie," with such reverence, as if she were the most precious jewel. As I watched, I suddenly found myself laughing, tears streaming down my face. Then, my phone buzzed with another message. The sender asked, "What do you think you are?" Indeed, what am I? Nothing but a joke. I parked my car under the bridge and walked up to the top. Before me was an endless stream of traffic, behind me the ever-silent River Thames. People in their circle never liked crowded places. They always felt it tarnished their status. But I absolutely adored watching people. I saw young couples snogging in their cars, exhausted workers leaning against bus windows with lifeless expressions, and Instagram-famous girls in convertible luxury cars squealing with delight as they received shopping bags from high-end brands. They were still young, unaware that every gift bestowed by fate already had a price tag attached. Just like me. I turned around, stepped onto the railing, and reached out towards the river. The cold wind from the Thames hit my face. Suddenly, a shout came from behind, "Don't do it!" Before I could react, a tremendous force yanked me off the railing, all while yelling, "You're so young! Don't do anything stupid!" Caught off guard, I was pulled down from the railing and tumbled with the man. My stiletto got stuck, twisting my already injured ankle, causing me to cry out in pain. Even worse, my already tattered cocktail dress made a blood-curdling ripping sound. I didn't dare move, furiously shouting at him. I wasn't trying to kill myself. "Let go of me! Don't be foolish," the person suddenly stopped. "Oh, you weren't attempting suicide." Only then did I get a clear look at the culprit. He was a very young lad, quite handsome, wearing a white hoodie, like a fresh young sapling. His face turned bright red, and he began to stammer. Sorry about that." He fumbled to take off his jacket and draped it over me. "I'm so sorry, I thought you were going to jump. I acted on impulse just now. I must have left the house without checking my horoscope today. Everything that happened tonight was utterly vexing." But the chap behind me kept nattering on. "Let me give you a lift home." "No need." But the boy, like an eager Samiad wagging its tail, kept following me, trying to show his remorse. A sudden flash of white light made me freeze. I turned my head and realized. The steady stream of traffic on the bridge had suddenly slowed down. I saw people in every slowly passing car excitedly raising their phones, capturing this crowd-pleasing scene of a rescue. I didn't need to imagine to know. Tonight, countless videos would appear on social media platforms with the mortifying tag. #youngwoman heartbroken attempts suicide, handsome puppy saves her life #. Without hesitation, I covered my head with his jacket and ran for my life. After returning home, I drew the curtains and fell into a deep sleep. I was awakened by a harsh slap across my face, only to see my father's face contorted with anger. "What disgraceful things have you done?" he bellowed. My vision blurred, and it took me a moment to regain my senses. "What are you doing?" I managed to ask. "Winifred, you've really outdone yourself this time. Getting dumped and then trying to jump off a bridge. Have you no regard for the Sinclair family name?" He was fuming like an enraged bull, his nostrils flaring with each breath. Behind him stood my stepmother, barely concealing her smugness. "Oh, Alfred dear, I'm sure Winnie didn't mean to. She must have been upset after the breakup." "Don't be too hard on the child," she cooed. It had only been a month since my mother's passing when my stepmother waltzed in, pregnant and all. That's when my nightmare truly began. Even the idea of sending me as a study companion to Crispin Whitlock was my stepmother's kind suggestion. She always maintained that sweet, gentle demeanor. You know what they say about childhood sweethearts being unforgettable. Who knows, our Winnie might be the lucky one, and perhaps she could help her little brother in the future. And just like that, I was gifted away like a parcel. She's nothing but a useless waste. All those years by his side, and she couldn't even secure her position. Now she's been tossed out. My father ranted, his voice growing harsher with each word. Since you can't make Crispin Whitlock change his mind, there's no point in you keeping that position anymore. As if I cared about that position. I found it almost laughable. "I can hand over the keys," I interrupted him. "Just give me my mom's ashes." All these years, if they hadn't been holding my mother's ashes over me, I would have left long ago. I stared at my father, watching his face change from red to green, then gradually to purple, before he finally erupted into a torrent of abuse. "You little harlot, just like your mother. Don't you dare insult my mom," I shouted, suddenly feeling nauseous. I turned and vomited. My stepmother tugged at my father's sleeve, and his stream of insults abruptly ceased. She whispered something to him, and I saw a glimmer of wild joy in their eyes. In an instant, my father's attitude changed completely. "Winnie, dear, "Are you pregnant?" he asked, his voice tinged with excitement. I froze. "The last time, we might not have. You rest now. Your stepmother and I will make some soup and check on you later," my father said, rubbing his hands together eagerly like some repulsive bluebottle. "It's impossible," I protested, trying to stop them before they could rush off to the Whitlocks demanding they take responsibility for me. We always used protection, and the Whitlocks would never allow Crispin to have a child out of wedlock. They had arrived in a fury and left gleefully, leaving behind a mess in my room and taking the keys with them. But I knew this wouldn't be the end of it. They wouldn't be satisfied until they had squeezed every last drop out of me. I stood there in a daze for quite a while, my mind in turmoil. Finally, I decided to order a pregnancy test through a delivery app. But when I took out my phone, I realized my messages had exploded. "Winnie, are you all right? Bloody hell, the video says you jumped into the river? What on earth happened? Where are you now?" But as I scrolled down, the tone changed. "Trust you to pull something like this. Brilliant. You did this on purpose to wind up Crispin and his lot, didn't you? What were they on about?" When I tried to search for it, all the posts on every platform had been wiped clean. The so-called video was nowhere to be found. Who had done this? I received countless messages, some gleeful, some concerned, but none from Crispin Whitlock. As if on cue, I opened the red notification dot on my social media feed. Crispin had posted an update 3 minutes ago. 2 hands clasped together. The man's hands strong and powerful, the woman's fingers slender and soft. Perfectly interlocked, a match made in heaven. He wrote, "Finally found you." Below, his mates were going wild in the comments. Some busybodies were tagging me repeatedly, making sure I wouldn't miss it. I smiled wryly and turned off my phone. What was I still hoping for? Hadn't I made enough of a fool of myself already? The pregnancy test arrived at that moment. Those few minutes waiting for the result were probably the most agonizing of my life. But when the result came, I felt somewhat relieved, yet also a bit empty inside. One line. Just like the relationship between Crispin and me. We were ultimately lacking that bit of fate. Just then, my mobile rang. It was an unknown number. I didn't want to answer at first, but then the number sent a text message. "Miss Sinclair, this is Barnaby Jennings." When it rang again, the man's voice on the other end was calm and deep. "Hello, Miss Sinclair. My brother acted rashly last night and caused you trouble. I've had all the videos on the relevant websites taken down. If there's anything you need as compensation, please don't hesitate to ask." I was taken aback. Who was this? "My brother's ID is still with you, Miss Sinclair. If it's not too much trouble, I'll come to retrieve it in a week. You can think about what you might need during this time." His tone was somewhat familiar. That condescending attitude I had seen countless times from the Whitlocks. The brand of that casually rolled-up jacket from yesterday looked familiar. Crispin used to love it, with even a simple piece costing thousands of pounds. I had a vague guess in my mind. Until I opened the ID holder and saw that address. I finally remembered which Jennings this was. Wasn't this the Jennings family that had just moved to London in the second half of this year, set to rival the Whitlocks? The fact that I wasn't pregnant also deeply disappointed my father. Previously, they had still been mindful of the relationship between Crispin Whitlock and me. Now, seeing that he was about to get engaged, they feared I would be an eyesore to the Stainer family. They immediately used the excuses of embarrassment and impact on the family company's stock price to completely push me out of the core circle of the family business. As always, stupid and despicable. Primrose Stainer was Crispin Whitlock's high school sweetheart. Her sudden return to prominence was indeed extraordinary. The former playboy had turned into a devoted partner, with their sickeningly sweet couple photos on Instagram nearly blinding everyone. Who wouldn't praise Miss Stainer for her skill in managing her man? I blocked the social media feeds of everyone in that circle. However, when it came to removing Crispin Whitlock's WhatsApp pin, my hand hovered over the screen for a long time, unable to follow through. I seemed to hear the awkward threat of Crispin Whitlock from 10 years ago in my ear. "You're never allowed to remove this pin. You must always reply to my messages first, and you're not allowed to look at anyone else's." He had said it himself. Later, I had seen his phone and discovered that I was just one of countless red dot contacts. He had blocked me long ago. I reached up to touch my cheek, only to realize that I had been crying without even noticing. But they still wouldn't leave me alone. The engagement invitation lay right in front of me. The handwriting was unmistakably Crispin's. My heart felt as if it was being squeezed tightly, aching and sour. I wanted to run out and scream just to release the pain. Primrose sat primly before me, her perfectly made-up face full of false concern. "I'm getting engaged to Crispin. He's been so good to you all these years, sister." Her voice trailed off in a long, coy tone. "I should thank you for what happened back then. If it weren't for you, Crispin wouldn't be so devoted to me." "Congratulations," I said through gritted teeth, my whole body trembling slightly. "Oh, are you actually upset?" Primrose looked me up and down, grasping my chin and patting my face condescendingly. "After all these years, you still haven't learned, have you? Who do you think you are to compete with me for Crispin? Indeed, ordinary people like us were always meant to be collateral damage in the love affairs of the upper class. It's not that I hadn't fought back, but each time I did, I faced even crueler punishment. Hadn't I learned enough lessons over the years? I'll overlook your time with Crispin these past few years. At least you're cleaner than those other women. But now that I'm back, you need to get far away, understand?" With that, Primrose wiped her hands on a tissue in disgust and threw it in my face. Just as she turned to leave, I finally couldn't contain my anger. "Are you afraid I'll let something slip?" Primrose stopped in her tracks. "Afraid Crispin will learn the truth about what happened back then? What do you think he'd do if he knew you lied to him?" But she turned back, her smile still sweet and gentle. "Go ahead, see if he'll believe you. Oh, I forgot to tell you, I have your mother's ashes." She wagged her finger at me. "On the day Crispin and I get married, your mother's ashes will naturally be handed over to you. But if you do anything you shouldn't, well, I don't know where they might end up. Winifred, you're a smart girl. I trust you know what to do." "Ashes?" I looked up suddenly. For all these years, my father and stepmother had been using my mother's ashes to blackmail me into doing things I didn't want to do. I never imagined they were actually in Primrose's possession. Had my father really done such a thing just to curry favor? I finally couldn't take it anymore and raised my hand to slap her. "Primrose, you bitch." But suddenly, someone grabbed my hand from behind and threw me to the ground with tremendous force. "Winifred! What are you doing?" Crispin had appeared at the door at some point, just in time to see me raise my hand to strike Primrose. She had planned this. I hit the ground hard, my previously sprained ankle throbbing with pain, cold sweat dripping down my temples. But the man I had loved for 10 years was over there, holding Primrose in his arms and comforting her gently, not even sparing me a glance. Primrose put on an act, whimpering and shedding tears in his embrace. "Crispin, I came specially to deliver the invitation, but..." Crispin looked down at me, his eyes full of contempt and indifference. "Everyone said you were shameless and vain, but I didn't believe it. Today, Primrose came here out of kindness to give you an invitation. If I hadn't arrived just in time, what were you planning to do to her? Winifred, you've really disappointed me." At that moment, I heard the sound of my heart being completely crushed. My whole body began to tremble. In an angle he couldn't see, I saw Primrose flash me a smug smile. I saw her mouth the words, "Ashes." In the end, I still couldn't say anything. "Primrose, Crispin, you'll both get what's coming to you." After they left, I finally couldn't hold back anymore. I picked up the vase from the table and smashed it hard on the floor. Porcelain shards and water splattered everywhere, but I still wasn't satisfied. I swept everything off the desk onto the ground. I sat alone in the office from afternoon until evening and finally sent a message to a certain number. "Mr. Jennings, I've decided what I want." The other side quickly replied with an address. As I turned off the screen, I let out a long breath. I never quite understood why someone like Barnaby Jennings, a man of such high standing, would personally come to collect a mere document. That is, until he sat down in front of me. "So, Miss Sinclair, is there anything you desire?" His dark eyes fixed on me, and I instinctively tensed up. The aura of someone accustomed to power was truly intimidating, always making one worry if they've said something wrong. Mr. Jennings, I have a request. The Stainer family is in a dispute with mine over a piece of land, I said, licking my dry lips. Please, could you take that land back and give it to the Stainers? His gaze was so intense that I felt as if he could see right through me, so I decided to be straightforward. I only want to retrieve my mother's ashes. To be honest, I dislike dealing with people like Barnaby Jennings. They're all so cunning. Anyone who appears before me has undoubtedly investigated my background thoroughly. My father was what you'd call a social climber. During university, he went to great lengths to ensnare my mother, a naive rich girl. From then on, he used his in-laws' influence to advance his career. My happy childhood memories were terrifyingly brief. My mother was the gentlest woman I've ever known. Unfortunately, my father's wandering eye proved too much for her. My mother was like a delicate vine, withering rapidly without her husband's love. She couldn't go on living. In my memories, our home was always vast and cold. My mother, dressed in a white gown, was like a ghostly figure who had lost her love. On my 10th birthday, she caressed my face and said with deep regret, "Winifred, Mummy has to go now." "I'm sorry, darling. Mummy's just too tired." I begged her not to leave. But when I returned from school, all that awaited me was her cold, lifeless body. My grandfather, devastated by the loss of his beloved daughter, passed away in a car accident not long after. All the family assets fell into my father's hands, and barely a month later, my stepmother moved in, heavily pregnant. I refused to end up like my mother. I want these people to face the consequences of their actions. Miss Sinclair, Barnaby began slowly, I've heard you've been with young Mr. Whitlock for many years. Couldn't he help you retrieve the ashes? I remained silent for a moment. Barnaby didn't rush me, leisurely stirring his coffee with a spoon. There's no point in hiding it. He thinks I betrayed him, so he's allowing my family to continue controlling me with the ashes, I finally said. As I spoke, I felt a lump forming in my throat. It took all my strength to hold back the tears. I apologize, Miss Sinclair, but your sudden appearance in my brother's life makes it difficult for me not to be suspicious. Barnaby said. I can't be certain you're not sent by the Whitlocks, so I'm afraid I can't grant your request. My nails dug deep into my palms as that familiar feeling of humiliation washed over me again. Aren't you bound to clash with the Whitlocks sooner or later? I gritted my teeth and looked up at him. If that's the case, it's just a piece of land. The Whitlocks won't suffer any loss. I don't see how this affects the Jennings family. Or was your so-called gratitude just empty words? I can help you, he finally said, but if I find out you're deliberately getting close to my brother. Miss Sinclair, I'll make you regret ever being born. It wasn't until he left that I realized my back was drenched in cold sweat. Later, I understood. The reason Mr. Jennings came in person wasn't because he was interested in me. It was to see what it was about me that had captivated Reginald so completely. I decided to go to the spa with my best friend Griselda Fane to clear my head. After meeting Barnaby Jennings that day, we exchanged WhatsApp contacts. But to my surprise, the next day, Reginald Jennings also sneakily added me on WhatsApp. He started by sending an emoji of a little crying person on their knees. Winnie, I'm so sorry. I really messed up. I shouldn't have tried to play the hero and ripped your dress, causing you to trend on social media. Please, give me a chance to make it up to you. Can I take you out for dinner tonight? The constant stream of messages made my hand vibrate. The enthusiasm of young people can be quite overwhelming at times. He refused to call me Miss, insisting on Winnie, his intentions crystal clear. Please give me a chance. My brother gave me a proper thrashing when he got home, called me a right idiot. He sent crying emojis while showing me his half-bruised eye. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. He's about to graduate university, yet still so naive. Griselda peeked over. Who are you chatting with that's got you so cheerful? I turned my phone to show her. Barnaby Jennings' brother. Blimey, she swore, that Jennings? I nodded. That Jennings. She immediately wore a mischievous grin. Well. If your dad finds out, he'll be absolutely livid. But aren't you going to tell him the truth about what happened back then? Tell him? I shook my head, surprised to find myself unexpectedly calm. Do you think he'd believe me? Barnaby kept his word. When the final results were announced, the Stainer family had secured the land. My father was furious, calling me in a rage. But I didn't answer his calls. Crispin Whitlock, however, did ring me. I didn't pick up. He probably wanted to explain that he wasn't behind this. But it didn't matter anymore. In everyone's eyes, it likely appeared that young Mr. Whitlock had sacrificed his unimportant mistress to prove his loyalty to his fiancée. Crispin only called once and didn't try again. For a young gentleman like him, having the patience to explain once was already quite an effort. I looked at my phone and smiled, not without mockery. But that was all there was to it. I still don't know how Reginald managed to convince his brother, who clearly doesn't mince words, to go along with his plan. Not only did he insist on joining the team with his own capital, but he also used the excuse of needing to understand the process before signing a contract to intern at my company. Because of my mother's connections, I had privately opened a medical equipment company. With his good looks and generosity, he quickly became the darling of the company. As the female colleagues in the company put it, who can resist someone who calls everyone love so charmingly? Then, in their days, they ended up revealing all my preferences to him. It's not that some of the young ladies didn't have designs on him. But these thoughts quickly died in the flowers he sent every day in different ways. Instead, they became shippers for Reginald and me. Every lunchtime, Reginald would enthusiastically bring prepared lunch boxes to eat with me, accompanied by a different bouquet every day. Mom told me that a gentleman should know his flowers if he wants to woo a lady home, he said. He happily pulled out the flowers from behind his back and held them in front of me, his invisible tail practically spinning like a windmill. I picked these myself. Aren't they lovely? Winnie, the first time I saw you on that bridge, you were so beautiful it made my heart skip a beat. The young man's eyes were full of eagerness, as sweet as a little pudding about to melt. I admit it. At that moment, I felt a shameful flutter in my heart. Young Mr. Jennings truly proved his worth. It's not that Rowena Halton hadn't tried to cause trouble for me. She had managed to arrange for the fire brigade and tax office to conduct a surprise inspection in the morning, forcing us to temporarily close for renovations. But by the afternoon, she was dragged in by her family elders to apologize. "I'm sorry," she muttered. It was the first time I'd seen Reginald's face darken, his entire demeanor becoming unapproachable. He gestured towards me, his expression impassive. "Wrong. The person you should be apologizing to is over there." Watching her grind her teeth, forced to swallow her pride and apologize, I must admit, the feeling of vindication was rather satisfying. After Rowena left, Reginald's demeanor changed completely. He began seeking approval like an eager puppy. "Winnie! Winnie! How did I do just now?" I couldn't help but laugh, patting his head affectionately. "Absolutely brilliant," I replied. "But if you walk in the dark often enough, you're bound to encounter ghosts." Crispin Whitlock cornered me at my front door. He reeked of alcohol and immediately tried to kiss me. I instinctively dodged, but he grabbed my chin firmly. Like a dog, he sniffed around my neck, seemingly satisfied that he didn't smell anything unwanted. Then he asked me contentedly, "Are you with that Jennings boy now? How is that any of your business?" I tried to sidestep him to enter, but he caught my hand and pinned me against the wall. "Sister, I've missed you so much," he said, attempting to kiss my neck. I took a deep breath, fighting the urge to retch as I warned him, "Stop it, Crispin. Don't make me hate you." He paused, then let out a cold laugh, toying with me like a cat with a cornered mouse. "Jennings, you really know how to pick them. You think having a new patron means you can escape me? Does he know what you're like in bed?" Crispin's voice suddenly grew louder. "Does he know I was your first?" His expression turned malicious. "Does he know it happened in the car, without even booking a room?" I finally snapped and slapped Crispin hard across the face. "Crispin Whitlock, you bastard." Crispin licked his split lip and laughed maniacally. "Jennings, did you hear that?" He raised his phone, showing an ongoing call. The caller was Reginald Jennings. My heart shattered, and I felt suffocated. Crispin released me, laughing wickedly. Sister, you'll never escape me. This is what you owe me. That night, I received a message from Reginald. Winnie, give me some time. Reginald Jennings suddenly vanished. His mobile was unreachable, and no one could contact him. Barnaby Jennings' call came directly to my phone. He only said 5 words. Miss Sinclair, have some dignity. I had heard such words more than once from people in their circle. The feeling of humiliation nearly overwhelmed me. Just then, a big order that the company had previously taken on also ran into trouble. When it came time for delivery, the client kept making excuses about various quality issues and refused to pay. It wasn't a small sum. I didn't know if that was a warning from Barnaby Jennings or something else. The company's cash flow was already stretched to the limit. I tried to borrow money everywhere but was repeatedly turned down. Those bank managers who had greeted me with smiles when I was with Crispin Whitlock now changed their tune, either making excuses to avoid me or simply not answering their phones. The reality was sickening. When I was at my wit's end, I received a call from Rowena Halton. Winifred Sinclair, who do you think you are? You think you're something special because you've latched onto young Mr. Jennings? She laughed loudly on the other end of the line. See, with just a flick of our fingers, you're still that disgusting little bug. You want me to apologize to you? You're not worthy. Just as I was at my wit's end, I received a call from a bank that had previously rejected me. They gave me an address and invited me to come in for a chat. It wasn't until the executive chair swiveled around and I saw Crispin Whitlock's face, the one I'd loved for 10 years, that I felt a sudden wave of fear. Sister, he said. That title instantly snapped me out of my daze, and I cautiously took a step back. Sister, you look so guarded. It hurts me to see you like this. He tilted his head, revealing a glaring love bite on his neck. Crispin Whitlock was a predator. I didn't want to imagine how he would kiss Primrose Stainer in bed, or whisper sweet nothings to her. While he kept me at arm's length, he didn't deny himself any pleasures. His double standards were utterly shameless. Not seeing the reaction he wanted on my face, Crispin stood up from his chair and approached me step by step, until he had me cornered against the door. After you left my side, you went and got tangled up with the Jennings family. What's the matter? Was I not enough to satisfy you, or? I raised my hand and slapped Crispin hard across the face. What the hell are you saying? Caught off guard, Crispin's face was knocked to the side by my slap. But when he turned back, he looked oddly pleased. Sister, you're so angry. Does this mean you haven't slept with Reginald Jennings yet? What exactly are you trying to do? I was so furious that I had unknowingly bitten the inside of my cheek, filling my mouth with the metallic taste of blood. That Jennings boy has been locked up, hasn't he? As he drew closer to me, I felt a chill run through my body. Do you really think the Jennings family would accept someone like you, damaged goods? He always knew how to hurt me. I hear he put up quite a fight, but sister, I still advise you to give up. His tone was strange, somewhere between concern and mockery. I always knew Crispin was clever, but to feel so exposed before him filled me with a deep sense of humiliation. Why bother? Sister, I told you that land is yours. As long as you stay with me, other favors won't be a problem either. Don't you want to punish the Sinclairs? Don't you want to take back everything that belongs to your mother? I can give you all of that. As long as you're a good girl. Just as he was about to lean in and kiss me again, I put my hand between us to stop him. You're going to marry Primrose Stainer, I said, still tasting the iron in my mouth. It's just an engagement, he said lightly, even with a hint of innocent confusion. But sister, even if I'm engaged, it doesn't affect our relationship, does it? I've slept with Primrose, but I still find you the most appealing. When I get bored, I'll let you go. I couldn't bear to hear any more. As I prepared to slap him again, Crispin easily caught my wrist. Sister, how long have you been out, and you've already learned to hit people? What kind of rubbish has that Jennings boy been teaching you? Just then, his phone rang. I watched as he answered Primrose's call, using that excessively gentle tone to soothe and coax her, all while his hands were doing vulgar things to me. Finally, after ending the call, he tilted his head towards me with a puzzled expression. I don't know why, but I always feel like Primrose is different from what I remember. Sister, do you know why? My heart was torn to shreds, leaving only hatred behind. The boy I once knew in my memories was dead. What remained was nothing but a disgusting scoundrel. Crispin Whitlock has confined me to his side. He's confiscated my mobile, cutting off all contact with the outside world. Though I'm living in luxury, he doesn't treat me as a person at all. As the wedding day approaches, Crispin acts like a little boy who's lost his favorite toy, desperately trying to win my affection. I don't find it touching, I find it laughable. He doesn't understand why I no longer accept him. He's still dreaming of having both a wife and a mistress. Today is my birthday. I suggested we go to the Michelin-starred restaurant where we used to have our dates. Crispin Whitlock was overjoyed, thinking I had finally softened towards him. He didn't skimp on flowers or gifts, and the setting was both romantic and lavish. We even got the same private dining room. He's been increasingly anxious these past few days. Seeing me ignore his carefully prepared gifts once again, Crispin finally couldn't help but ask me, "Winnie, don't you have anything you want to say to me?" I remained silent. I was just waiting. I deliberately chose this place because the Stainer family has shares in it. Someone was bound to report back that her fiancé was splashing out here to please another woman. Enough to make Miss Stainer furious. Sure enough. It didn't take long for the mobile to start vibrating frantically. Crispin Whitlock looked down at his phone and cursed. He was so clever, he quickly figured it out. "It's you," he said. I looked at him calmly. "I don't think we have anything more to say. On your birthday, your friends humiliated me so much, and you seemed to enjoy it, didn't you?" Crispin was taken aback. "You heard that?" I laughed until tears came to my eyes. "Do you think I'm that pathetic, Crispin? I've been clinging to you desperately, pretending not to notice other women around you. Now that your true love has returned, I'm stepping aside for her." "Haven't I done enough?" Crispin stammered, "It's not like that." He awkwardly tried to reach out and wipe my tears. "That's not what I meant. Stop calling me sister." I finally snapped. "How long are you going to humiliate me? Crispin, if you have any regard for our past, just let me go. I don't want to be anyone's mistress. Winifred, let me think about it." He softened his tone, the way I used to love most. "Let me figure things out, all right? You're special to me." But he was clearly still proceeding with his wedding plans with Primrose. After I refused him, he kept asking me persistently, "Have you fallen for someone else?" I finally gave up. "Yes." "Who is it?" "Is it Reginald?" When Crispin pinned me hard against the wall, I found I could still manage to smile. "Crispin, you disgust me." His eyes were bloodshot as he lowered his head to kiss me. Just as our lips were about to touch, I turned my head away. Crispin hissed through gritted teeth in my ear, "Winifred, you owe me this." "No," I looked him straight in the eye. "Crispin, I don't owe you anything. I never have." Suddenly, the door was kicked open with a thunderous bang as it hit the wall. "Let her go." It was Reginald Jennings. He must have just escaped from somewhere, looking utterly disheveled. As he rushed in, he caught sight of Crispin Whitlock leaning down to force himself on me. Without hesitation, Reginald landed a heavy punch square on Crispin's face. Crispin wasn't one to take such an affront lying down. He immediately retaliated with a kick to Reginald's abdomen, sending him flying backwards. The two men became entangled in a brutal fistfight. The sound of flesh hitting flesh was chilling to the bone. "Stop it, both of you!" I shouted, calling for help while secretly trying to hinder Crispin. After being kept locked up like a prisoner by this bastard for so long, I had a belly full of anger to unleash. In no time, Crispin's handsome face had taken several blows, swelling up dramatically. Primrose Stainer arrived at that moment, her face contorted with anger. I noticed her nails digging deep into the strap of her handbag. Finally, the manager, alerted by the commotion, arrived with his staff and forcibly separated the two brawling men. "Winifred Sinclair, you owe me an explanation." Crispin roared behind me. I heard the crisp sound of Primrose slapping him across the face. "Good for her. Winnie, I'm hurting, Reggie whimpered beside me, desperately showing off his swollen lip and bruised eye. He'd lost quite a bit of weight since I'd last seen him. Why are you here? I sighed, asking him. I escaped by jumping out the window. He puffed out his chest proudly, then deflated. If I hadn't hurt myself when I landed, I wouldn't have lost the fight. I'd noticed earlier during the scuffle that his right leg seemed a bit off, but I hadn't realized it was from jumping out a window. My family's been giving you trouble, haven't they? He asked cautiously. I'm so sorry, Winnie. It's all my fault. It won't happen again. I won't leave you alone anymore. I remained silent for a moment, then reached out and took his hand. His entire body froze. For an instant, I could almost see an invisible tail standing straight up behind Reggie. Wake up, I couldn't help but give him a little shake. Reggie still looked as if he was floating on cloud 9. He turned to me, his face full of blissful happiness as if he was in heaven. Winnie, you're holding my hand. You're holding my hand. Holding my hand. He repeated it like a broken record, and I finally couldn't take it anymore. Shut up! I snapped. The young Master Jennings' injury naturally caused quite a commotion. The hospital staff were on high alert, giving him a thorough examination from head to toe. The final diagnosis was a fractured right leg. With a fractured leg, he had still managed to hold his own against Crispin Whitlock. After the examination results came out, Reginald was beside himself with pride, boasting that Crispin Whitlock wasn't all that. What happened next was even more absurd. Crispin Whitlock had also been admitted. In other words, these two sworn enemies who had just come to blows were now hospitalized together. Their rooms were directly opposite each other. Did no one worry they might start fighting again? Since I was responsible for his son's injury and hospitalization, it was undoubtedly my duty to take care of him. The news spread quickly. A flood of visitors came to see both patients. While the Jennings family's visitors were manageable, most of the Whitlock family's guests had heard rumors about my relationship with Crispin Whitlock. Now they saw me taking care of Reginald Jennings. With both young gentlemen staying in such a delicate hospital room situation, all because of my fight, people's gazes towards me became rather peculiar. It was as if they were looking at some femme fatale who could bring down an empire. My father, having caught wind of the news from somewhere, eagerly arrived with my stepmother in tow. The sight of his face made me nauseous. Fortunately, Reginald, ever vigilant, had security stop him before he could even enter. He then turned to me, metaphorically wagging his tail, seeking praise for his quick thinking. Reginald Jennings was the youngest child and the apple of his family's eye. I had initially thought the Jennings family would blame me. But when they arrived, Reginald took all the responsibility upon himself, claiming he had simply drunk too much. Mrs. Jennings was a gentle woman, and while Mr. Jennings had an imposing presence, her soft touch seemed to mellow him considerably. Mrs. Jennings even comforted me. It's all right, Winifred dear. It's all because that silly boy drank too much urn brew and got wobbly legs. It's not your fault at all. Reginald shouted from across the room. Mom, that's pseudoscience. Mrs. Jennings shot him a glare, and Reginald promptly shut his mouth. She turned back to me and continued softly, I know what happened. It's all because his brother kept him cooped up. I'll give him what for when we get home. Barnaby glanced at me, then casually looked away, seemingly accepting the situation. I was astounded. These people were well informed. I didn't believe they were unaware of the rumors about Crispin Whitlock and me, especially since he was now in the room across the hall. Yet Mrs. Jennings could still treat me with such kindness. With such a family atmosphere, it's no wonder Reginald and Crispin turned out to be such different characters. Later, Reginald whispered to me, Winnie, don't worry. My parents were pure romantics back in the day, and they absolutely adore you. They gave my older brother a good talking to before they arrived. Haven't you noticed how well behaved he's been? What about your brother? I asked. You know, don't you? He asked in a hushed tone. Know what? My brother had a first love who died young. I turned pale. You're not trying to say I look like his first love, are you? Reginald's expression was quite indescribable. You're overthinking it. It's just that his first love died in an accident, so he's a bit psychologically damaged. He can't stand the thought of me finding true love before him. He locked me up, which led to me jumping out of the window. When my mom came back, she gave him a good thrashing. "You can rest easy, he won't be coming around to show off anymore." Then he scat and marveled, "I never would have guessed you'd fancy this kind of setup." At that moment, I could have dug a hole with my toes and crawled into it. I only wished I hadn't opened my big mouth. This wasn't my first time in a special ward, but it was the first time I was caring for someone other than Crispin Whitlock. When I encountered him in the hallway on the first day, Crispin's face wore an expression that said, "Just as I thought." He assumed I would still be clinging to him desperately like before. As he spoke to himself, he reached out to take the container from my hands, but I deftly dodged him. "This isn't for you," I said. Crispin's face flushed red, then turned pale. He stood there, stunned. "You're not here to bring me food?" I couldn't be bothered with him and walked away. "Well, if it isn't young Mr. Whitlock," Reginald Jennings' mischievous voice rang out. "How pitiful. No one to bring you food when you're hungry? Better call that fiancé of yours quick. Stop eyeing other people's girlfriends. Isn't it embarrassing?" Crispin ultimately couldn't bring himself to beg for food in public. He could only let me pass with a gloomy face. "Winifred, you." I couldn't care less about him. I was only a few steps behind. By the time I returned, Reginald was already lying on the bed with a sulky expression. "I take my eyes off you for a moment, and you're off to see him again," he grumbled. "Go on then," he said, turning his back to me and pulling the duvet over his head. He muttered softly, "Just leave me here to wallow in my misery under this floral duvet." With a blank expression, I grabbed the duvet and wrapped it tightly around him, cocooning his entire body. "Oh, do shut up." Perhaps that fight with Reginald Jennings finally knocked some sense into him. This time, Crispin Whitlock seemed to have finally noticed something fishy about the incident from years ago, and he quietly launched an investigation. As the details of that past event were gradually uncovered, Primrose Stainer panicked. She started contacting me. She wanted to use her old tricks again, trying to buy my silence about the past with cremated ashes. "When you pulled that bait-and switch with Mabel Truman back then, did you ever imagine you'd face this day? When I was in secondary school, Crispin Whitlock and I were once kidnapped together. Strictly speaking, Crispin was the intended target, and I was just the unfortunate tag-along. The kidnappers didn't seem to be after money. We were bound and blindfolded, then driven for a long time over bumpy roads. We had no idea how far into the countryside we'd been taken. They only gave us a tiny amount of food and water. But Crispin held my hand the whole time, shielding me with his thin chest. He told me not to be afraid, saying he would protect me. Yet he was only 16 at the time. He saved his water for me to drink, even as his own lips cracked from thirst. He wouldn't allow himself a single extra sip. He even rationed the little bit of scone we were given. Half for Winifred on the first day. The other half saved. On the second day, still for Winifred. He told me, "Don't be scared. I have a tracking device on me. My family will find us and rescue us." He sounded so certain that I believed him. But I later learned that the kidnappers had already disposed of his tracking device. The situation grew increasingly dire. Crispin's leg was broken while protecting me, and he developed a high fever. The kidnappers' demands for a huge ransom went unanswered. It was a crucial time for Crispin's father's promotion, and the Whitlock family couldn't risk producing such a large sum to rescue their son. As Crispin's condition worsened, I spent an entire night wearing through the ropes until I finally escaped. Crispin was already very weak. We had only run halfway when the kidnappers caught up to us. Crispin told me to run ahead while he held them off. "Wait for me to come back." I'll never forget the agonized scream I heard from Crispin not long after I fled. Yet he still clung to the kidnappers' legs, preventing them from chasing after me. I stumbled along for 2 days and nights, my body covered in scrapes and bruises. My shoes were long gone, and my feet were a bloody mess, filled with thorns. By heaven's grace, I finally saw a police car on patrol just before I lost consciousness. I nearly got run over as I threw myself in front of the vehicle. Using the last of my strength, I borrowed the officer's phone to call the Whitlock family and give them Crispin's location before passing out. But to my shock, when I woke up, I was back home. Meanwhile, Primrose Stainer had somehow appeared in that remote area and was rescued along with Crispin. They said Primrose was Crispin's savior. They said I had betrayed Crispin. No one questioned how illogical it was for Primrose to be there. I later learned the truth. My family had sold the credit for my rescue to the Stainer family. To the Whitlocks, I was nothing more than a live-in tutor. Did I really think I could climb the social ladder and become one of them? That's when Crispin's hatred for me began. He started calling me sister in that condescending, humiliating tone. I still remember the night before the kidnapping, when Crispin shyly told me, "Wait for me after school tomorrow. I have something to tell you." I had already seen the orders he'd secretly placed for roses and a necklace. But the next day, we were kidnapped together. From that moment, our futures diverged. 18-year-old Winifred and 16-year-old Crispin. We were just one confession short. 28-year-old Winifred and 26-year-old Crispin. He was getting engaged to someone else. You see, Crispin and I were always just a bit short on luck. My relationship with Reginald Jennings was progressing steadily. One time when he was dropping me home, I stood on tiptoe and kissed him. In that moment, Reginald's eyes lit up with an alarming intensity. Then this crazed little wolf pup pinned me against the car and kissed me senseless. I'd underestimated him. The truth about the past finally came to light. The Stainer family faced Crispin Whitlock's near-manic retribution. Even more ironically, it was discovered that the kidnapping years ago was orchestrated by the Stainers behind the scenes. For years, the Stainer and Whitlock families had been closely intertwined, reaping countless benefits. Now Crispin Whitlock had gone mad, forcibly tearing the Stainer family away from the Whitlocks in a manner that left both sides wounded. Everything they had taken would be returned twofold. The Stainer parents and a large number of relatives were thrown in prison. Primrose Stainer tried to flee overnight but was caught and brought back. Crispin Whitlock forced her to kneel before me and apologize. When she saw me, Primrose threw herself at my feet in an almost frenzied state, weeping and wailing. "Kill me! Please, kill me! I was wrong, I shouldn't have stolen your accomplishments. Please be merciful. I'll return your mother's ashes to you. Won't you let me go?" Then she was kicked away violently, blood spraying from her mouth. She curled up on the ground, whimpering in pain like a dog. There. Don't look," Crispin said, his expression gentle, but I felt chilled to the bone. That was the last time I saw her. I heard she was thrown into prostitution. The last time I received news about her, it was said that someone from her old social circle wanted to have some fun with her, but found she was too rotten to touch and left disappointed. As for my self-righteous father, without the Whitlock's protection, his already teetering company's finances completely collapsed. Not only was his entire fortune seized, but he was left with enormous debts. My stepmother, seeing the writing on the wall, fled overnight with money in hand, abandoning even her son. I caught that woman and delivered her to him along with a paternity test showing no blood relation. My father went berserk, beating and kicking my stepmother, but the son he had doted on for over 20 years rushed up and shoved him to the ground. "Don't hit my mom." The back of his head struck the corner of the coffee table, and his brains spilled out on the spot. He died with his eyes wide open. The golden boy was charged with manslaughter, while the stepmother couldn't escape her connection to the kidnapping years ago. The mother and son pair were both thrown in prison, they're just deserts. Reginald Jennings accompanied me to the cemetery. I could finally give my mother closure. Crispin Whitlock returned my mother's ashes to me. He called me countless times and sent numerous messages, but I didn't respond to any of them. Later, he began standing outside my house night after night, regardless of wind or rain. I looked down and saw Crispin's straight figure standing there. Why doesn't the rain just finish him off? Reginald Jennings peered over my shoulder. I patted his head, signaling the little dog to stay home, and went down alone with an umbrella. The moment he saw me, his eyes lit up. Cotton. Winnie! I hadn't heard that nickname in years, and for a moment, I felt disoriented. I was wrong. Can you forgive me? He tried to step forward and grab me, but I instinctively took a step back. Crispin froze, his face full of hurt. I don't have a chance anymore, do I? We had countless chances before, but they were ultimately destroyed by misunderstandings and suspicions. I laughed through my tears. It's not that I never told you the truth, but you didn't believe me. Crispin, your love is self-centered and shallow. I understand, Crispin said softly. He pulled out a knife from somewhere, and I heard Reginald, who had secretly followed me down, let out a terrified scream from behind. He asked me seriously, will it make you feel better if I stab myself? Before I could even react, he suddenly grabbed my hand, raised the knife high, and without hesitation, plunged it into his own abdomen. Once, then twice. Sticky, warm blood splattered all over my face and hair. My throat felt like it was blocked. I couldn't utter a word. He gripped the knife handle, his lips pale. Winnie, I know I deserve to die. Please, don't ignore me. He raised his hand again. A pair of warm hands covered my eyes, shielding me from the sight of blood everywhere. Reginald whispered in my ear, don't be afraid. Then he shouted at Crispin, are you bloody mental? If you want to die, do it somewhere else. He kicked the knife away and called 999. The ground was covered in large pools of blood. Crispin's face was deathly pale, but he still stubbornly looked at me. Even as he was being carried into the ambulance, his gaze never left me for a second. He begged for my forgiveness. Everyone said he had gone mad. I was still shaking even after we got into the lift. Reginald held me tightly, his face tense throughout. Once inside, he first grabbed a blanket to wrap around me, then busied himself running a bath. He didn't say a word the entire time. I knew he was angry. Angry that I had put myself in danger. I reached out and tugged at his sleeve. Reginald remained silent for a long while, but finally sighed and got into the bathtub with me. He gently patted my back, as if cradling a baby. It's all right, don't be afraid. Everything's fine now. I looked at him for a long time. Let me tell you a story. After hearing what I had to say, Reginald actually breathed a sigh of relief. He said, Winnie, I'm suddenly very grateful. Thank goodness Crispin is both suspicious and foolish. Thank goodness I didn't arrive too late. He grabbed my hand, kissing the back of it. Don't be scared, I'm here. His voice was full of relief and the feeling of having narrowly escaped disaster. Thank goodness I still have the chance to tell you, I love you. On the day of the wedding, I saw Crispin Whitlock among the guests. He had lost a lot of weight. I'd heard he had been diagnosed with mental health issues, his once promising future crumbling overnight, bringing the Whitlock family down with him. But he just stood there, silently watching me, looking as if he wanted to say something. In the end, though, he didn't come over to disturb me. While counting the wedding gifts, I came across an old, small box. The moment I opened it, I froze. It was the necklace I had admired when I was 18. I remembered commenting to 16-year-old Crispin, this necklace is so beautiful. The boy, sprawled lazily across his desk, had glanced at it and said, noted. I thought it was just idle chatter between a boy and girl during a summer break, but I never imagined he'd taken it to heart. He said, this was originally meant to be a gift when he confessed his feelings for me. He'd kept it all these years, wanting to return it to its rightful owner. There was also a card written in Crispin's blood. It said, I'm sorry. And, I love you. Reginald peered over my shoulder, alert like a watchful German shepherd. What's this rubbish? He said disdainfully, taking it from my hands and closing the box, tossing both the card and the box into the bin. I laughed, reaching out to hug this anxious puppy. It's all in the past. Those secret affections of our youth had fallen with the curtain on my chaotic and awkward adolescence.